All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. Today, ladies and gentlemen, hey, still Black History Month, still keeping it within the mental health frame. Today, all the way from the East Coast, y'all know how I give love to the East Coast. Come on now. Man, joining me all the way from Jersey City, New Jersey, y'all. Jersey. What's up to my people out there? Put your hands together for Pia Johnson.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you so much.
You are definitely welcome. So let me just give the people a little background information, on you and, just to let them know that, hey, we are talking about mental health. You are a licensed master social worker with a concentration in clinical social work.
Yes.
And you are also the owner and founder of Transformation Counseling Services.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that with us, please?
Sure. Transformation Counseling Services is a telehealth practice that provides accessible and culturally responsible counseling to marginalized individuals, traditionally marginalized individuals, right? All of our therapists look like us, right? They look like they can be our next door neighbors, our best friend, our uncle, our auntie, right? They're all licensed clinical practitioners, but I think the unique thing about us is that so many of them have specific concentrations even outside of mental health. Like I have someone who's a master yoga instructor, right? Exactly. I have someone who he's a pastor, right? And he sees a lot of couples. He does pastoral, counseling.
Mm.
I have another gentleman, and just to have two males on my team, like that's rare. Like they're unicorns in this field. He's a young guy who works specifically with a lot of young Black males, right? And that's so hard to find. He works with teens, he works with preteens, he works with, guys that like are in their mid-20s, 20, 21, 22. Phenomenal job. I have a life coach, right? I have individuals who specialize in working with women, women who are living with postpartum, right? I have a licensed psychologist. I work a lot within the LGBTQ community. So we're really well versed in working with a lot of different communities. And I think that's what makes us really, really different. And we're all of color.
Hey, well, look. Hence the name, you have to give it up, like Transformation Counseling Services, okay? Yeah. I found a couple of things you just said very, fascinating. One, telehealth and how important it is now post-COVID. Can you just talk a little bit about like the importance of telehealth and how, even though sometimes, yes, we may not be face-to-face with each other, but how, effective telehealth can be, just as being face-to-face with someone.
Sure. So the funny thing about this whole telehealth thing is that I was doing telehealth before COVID, years before COVID, and people would look at me and say, are you really, you do it online? How does that work? I can't see that really working, but it actually worked then, especially for the communities that I work with, right? Because it cuts down on people having to pay car fare, right? To go to see your therapist, right? People can at lunchtime, they can just log on, sit at their desk and log on. So, it cuts down some of the barriers of going to see your therapist. I found that people stayed in therapy longer. You don't have that high turnaround rate. And then when COVID hit, right, we couldn't be in person. So now everyone was struggling to, get online and try to get this thing going. And it really works. But what I do wish is I wish that our licensing boards and that insurance companies would get on board, right? Because there are some things like I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey. So I can see individuals in New York, New Jersey, and I can see individuals in other countries. However, I can't see somebody who might be living in rural Georgia, right? And might need assistance, right? Because I can't cross state lines. And so, it's not accessible to everyone. So I wish our licensing boards would kind of get on board. And I wish the insurance companies would be a little bit more open to reimbursing and paying for teletherapy.
Well, and pretty much to your point, I'm just going to piggyback everything, you said, because I've heard this time and time again. And just to give you a little insight on me, I was once in the master's program to be a licensed professional counselor. But, somehow things took a turn and,
Yes.
but I still have the passion and I still have the love. So I still dedicate this platform today. So moving from that sidebar, coming back to this here. We're in a day and age now where, mental health is just not something, hey, you know what? It's just here, it's just there, You may want to call it an epidemic or what have you, because if you let's just take a scope over the last couple of years. I don't even want to go back in time. Let's just take a scope over the last 2.5, maybe 3 years, ever since COVID, So since we've come out of that and we are reacclimating ourselves within society, there's been a lot of mental health issues, going on, from mass shootings to, beatings to all kinds of like domestic violence or what have you. So, like you are correct. Insurance companies, man, come on. People, let's get it together. People out here need services. But I'm gonna get off that soapbox, but I'm gonna get on this soapbox because you also said something very important. You have people in your services that look just like you, that could be your neighbor. I can be one of the people on your team who I have, I talk a lot about cultural competency, and for some, they are, like, hey, if, as long as, the therapist is effective or what have you, it really shouldn't matter. But for others, that really is, something, that they take pride in. And I'm going to go a little deeper. Something that you also said, that you specialize with the LGBTQ community, I don't think that gets enough study, enough shine, because like I said, we are living in a digital diverse age. Okay. So I think we need to reprogram ourselves, to how life is now. Yes. So can you talk a little bit about being a cultural competent therapist or clinician in this case?
Sure. I mean, like you said, for some people, it might not matter. But I have found that for most people who are coming into therapy, they want to be able to talk to someone who can relate to them, right? Someone who understands their plight, who understands when they're talking about family dynamics. What's so funny, because I see a lot of Black women, and a lot of them have the same stories about their mothers, right? Black mothers and daughters. And, sometimes we'll joke and we'll be, do we have the same mom? Because what they're saying, and so they don't have to spend time during their session explaining, what does that mean? Because I get it, right? We're on the same page. And 9 times out of 10, I've gone through it also, right? I've done the work myself in therapy to overcome some of those issues, same issues that you're telling me you're experiencing, the same things, walking into a store and being followed, right? Not being acknowledged, feeling like you're not seen, right? All of these things that can lead to depression, that can lead to anxiety, right? All of these things that are around race and culture, right? And so to be able to sit down with someone once a week and unpack these issues and talk about these struggles, I think people appreciate being able to do it with someone that looks like them, that truly understands them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, look at no, stop now. Look here, people. All right. I don't think you all heard what Pia Johnson just told y'all. She just dropped these gems on y'all now. Okay. I mean, stop getting off that, look, if I can relate and we can take shortcuts in breaking down the walls and getting to the root issue, and if we can get to a root issue that's non-traditional, like there's nothing wrong with that. I know people who are not a fan of play therapy. I think play therapy is wonderful. You know what I'm saying? For adults and kids, personally,
Yes.
I myself, I like person-centered therapy, man, let me just sit up here and run my mouth and tell you what's going on, and then hopefully you can guide me in this, that, and the other, so, man, I get it, but there are, others out there, and hopefully that will come around. And I'm going to say this too, because you know this as well, Pia Johnson, come on now, Black community, I'm going to say it.
Say it. I think I know what's coming. Say it.
There is nothing wrong with therapy.
Exactly. Yes.
There is nothing wrong with therapy. And as you just, come on, wait a minute.
Breaking the stigma.
Come on now, let's break the stigma. And on top of that, she has a pastor, y'all, who's also a therapist. Yes. So, man, I know some of y'all church, man, look here, don't be getting mad at me about this, but I know some of y'all church going people, I know how y'all like to get, you know what I'm saying? But, man, look here.
And his caseload stays full. Yeah. Because people are looking for a connection, especially coming out of COVID, right? They're really looking for a connection. And I'll tell you, I see more and more Black people coming into therapy than I've ever seen before. More and more of us are understanding the importance of taking care of your mental health, right? Your mental health isn't any different from your physical health. Your mind is part of your body. You go to a doctor for checkups and physicals, and why don't you go to a therapist? You don't have to just go into therapy when something is wrong, right? We go for maintenance. We go just to talk. We go just to work out life difficulties and life struggles. You don't have to wait till your life falls apart.
Look here, y'all. That's that BA in psychology from SUNY Empire State College coming through. Okay. All right. That's that MSW from Hunter College School of Social Work coming through. She put the time in, made her own, and is getting to the community, ladies and gentlemen. So come on, man. For us.
We try. We definitely. We have a small team, about 9 of us. Right. But we're an effective team. We're in a very effective team. Then that's what matters. Yeah. Great team.
I love it. Come on. And shout out to the team.
Yes. Shout out to my whole team at Transformation Counseling Services.
Hey, look here. I mean, I know y'all like Wu-Tang. It's like 9 of y'all. So I'm just going to shout out all of y'all real quick. Like, yeah, all y'all. All right.
Exactly.
Okay, no, I'm just playing. Anyway, but as I said before, this is Black History Month. And, being a clinician, I want to keep it within the mental health frame. But I also want to talk about trauma. Trauma is a part of our lives. There are many different aspects of trauma. As I said before, there's, there's acute trauma, chronic trauma, and complex trauma as well. So can you just sort of break down like trauma throughout Black history, from like slavery, to like now, I guess, or whatever, and how, I mean, I guess how some things are the same and some things are different from a clinician's standpoint?
So that question really makes me think of, generational trauma, right? And when I think about generational trauma, I think about all the violence that we see now across the cities, with our youth and inside of our schools, right? And when you put it in the context of going back, you say to slavery, and the violence that was perpetrated against us, and just being in survival mode, being in that mode of kill or be killed. I have to do whatever I have to do to survive, right? Just seeing violence, right? Sometimes not even being a victim of violence, but witnessing violence, right? So that, vicarious trauma, right? And how it's so prevalent, from then in terms of family violence, right? Family stress and the violence within the Black family and the Black community, what's witnessed, to now. When you look at these young kids in schools and the gun violence, and you have to think about nurture or nature, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Why are they so violent? Why does life not matter? Is it because traditionally Black lives didn't matter? Right? Black lives for some don't matter. And so we've taken on kind of that perspective of Black lives don't matter. So we can kill and we can hurt and we can disrespect each other. It's so layered and it's so complex that, the oppressed have become the oppressor. Right?
Come on.
And, and trying to kind of reconcile that and understand that. And when you think about the 80s and you think about, crack cocaine epidemic, and how a lot of young people, they lost their parents to that. They were raised by grandparents, and what we're seeing now. Right. So it's not just a result of slavery. It's a result of, the 80s, the 90s. It's a result of COVID, the isolation, right? All the trauma behind that. Right. When you think about studies that have gone on with individuals who are incarcerated, right, and who go to isolation, right, and what they go through, compare that to COVID. Right. And what people went through in isolation with COVID, you see similarities in the behavior. Right. That's trauma. Right. And you can put it in context of race. Right. Because we're disproportionately incarcerated. Right. And right now, the violence is in our communities is disproportionately committed against us by us. Right. And so when you look at it in the full context, it's complex. It really is complex. And as a clinician, sometimes, you sit and you think, how can we, as Black clinicians, help to turn this around? How can we help to curb this? What resources can we contribute to help our community and to kind of, reconcile with some of that trauma?
Look, the way you broke it down, and it's like a web,
It is. It really is. It really is.
Like the way it's designed or what have you, and just throughout generations. Because let's just pick the civil rights movement, and I know we talk about Malcolm X and we talk about Dr. King on other levels, but let's just take a mental health look at these two.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, there's been so many different scopes, but let's take a mental health look at things, and I can only imagine what Martin Luther King went through.
Oh, yes.
And, just dealing with, stuff up until his final days, and how people were saying, well, he really didn't want to go, to Memphis or what have you, but because of, I believe it was a strike or what have you with the sanitation department or this and what have you, man, he felt compelled. He went, tired, mentally beat down, been working nonstop. Man, I may not get that with you,
Exactly.
I'm not here. So mentally.
Yeah. PTSD, right? Can you imagine living every day with the thought of today might be your last day, right? Right? Racial trauma is real. However, and the symptoms are very similar to PTSD. However, racial trauma is not classified in the DSM-5, even though it exists. No, it's not. It's not. It's not classified in the DSM-5, and some people have advocated for it to be, of course, but there are others that say that it doesn't need to be in the DSM-5 because it's not measurable. And I think there are reasons behind it not being there, right? Because
come on now, Pierre.
For resources, right? For individuals who are Black and brown, and we cannot do that. So although we have these signs and symptoms that mimic PTSD, right? Almost to the T, right? It's not classified as a diagnosable diagnosis. Yeah. It's designed that way. It's purposeful. It's designed that way, right? Yeah. Okay. Because we can't have a classification for individuals to be able to benefit and to get help to people who we want to continue to oppress. We can't do that. Yeah.
I mean, man, and I will say this, as we get older, especially in this day and age, we live, as I said before, in a very digital age. Information is right here on the web. It's right here on your phone. It's wherever you want. Like, there's access to everything. Anything and everything you really, truly want to find out, you can find out. But for you, now I find that very interesting that racial trauma is not in the DSM-5. But maybe it'll be in the DSM-6.
Who knows? I don't think so. But I'll keep an open mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say it for the other people real quick here. Look here, ain't none of us on that board. We ain't on that board. We ain't writing for that. No.
Exactly. And until we have access, until we're sitting at these tables, right, it will continue to be this way.
Gotcha. So look here, y'all. We ain't gonna ease by that, but we just gonna drop that there for y'all. And look, look. No. Look, first and foremost, cultural competency. All right. People who look like us out here advocating, and fighting for, our mental health, on so many other levels, so hats off to you, hats off to, your team, and hats off to, just the people that you serve. So, we gonna slide past that and we gonna move on, people. We ain't gonna stay on that too long. All right. But I want to talk a little bit about, relationships within the Black and Indigenous, people of color community. As I said, Black History Month. I know we come in all shades, all flavors, from all nationalities or what have you. But let's just have a real moment here for a second, and I know we've talked about trauma, but like sometimes, there, and you did just hit on it, just previously, just talking about the violence within the Black community, like the Black on Black crime. But just from a clinical perspective, just on relationships, period, between, Black and brown people, even people from the islands. We're not even going to talk about, African and African American relations, but like how, like sometimes, the scope just doesn't match up sometimes, even though we are the same, it just doesn't match up sometimes,
Yeah. The division between some Black and brown individuals or cultures, right, is sad, because the only difference is the port in which we were dropped off during slavery, right? There's a tree line that separates Haiti from the Dominican Republic, right? Just a tree line. That's it. Just a patch of grass. That's it, right? But there is a lot of racism that exists, right? There's a lot of colorism that exists. Even in our own community, there's a lot of colorism that exists, right? And that's because we've always been made to feel others. They separated us. House, individual, I won't say the word, right? And field, individual, right? Right? And that created a boundary, like one was better than the other, right? The paper bag test, you had to be lighter than a paper bag, to get into a fraternity or a sorority, right? These things are real, and they not only, like I said, they exist between Black people, but they exist between, Caribbean culture, right? One is better than the other. If you're lighter, that's better. Whereas what they don't understand is that this is a mentality that was that was put upon you, right? This was imposed upon you. This isn't, because when it comes down to it, they don't care about any of us. They want to see the infighting. They want to see the friction, the anxiety that's caused, right? The harm that we cause each other. And until we stop doing that, right, we'll never progress. Never progress. We are all the same. It's just where we were left off, where that ship stopped, where they put us off the boat. That's the only difference. We all come from the same place.
Come on now. Come on. Man, we're all the same, Look here, the language barrier may break down from here to there, but for the most part, we're all the same.
We're all treated the same. Why don't you understand that? Why can't you see that we are all treated the same? We are all neglected, right? We are all stepped on. We consistently have to advocate for ourselves. We consistently have to be hyper vigilant, right? Which is a result of racial trauma, having to be hyper vigilant, right? Always on guard, right? We all experience it.
And it's so funny that you say that, because sometimes people, they'll come to me and they'll be like, well, I'm going on vacation and I'm this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, all right, well. I hope you have a nice time, but you really need to be aware of where it is that you're going.
Yes.
And they look at me and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look, I'm not trying to spoil anything for you, but keep in mind who you are and just your place in the world, not just here in America, in the world. I will never forget, I went to San Juan, Puerto Rico years back. And, I got a cab, and even before I got a cab, like someone came up to me and they just started speaking Spanish. And I was like, no, I'm an American. And they were like, huh? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. It was like, man, you look like my cousin. I thought you were my cousin. You really look like my cousin. And the cab driver was telling me, he was like, once the U.S. base got into Puerto Rico and they got into like the inland part, man, they pushed all of the like native and darker shade people
Yes.
towards the beaches or what have you, and out towards the countryside. And he said he used to deliver food out there to the schools, and how, man, as you said earlier, colorism.
Yes.
I just remember walking around like, okay, man, and okay, I guess I'm the fly in the soup today. I guess I'm the fly in the milk,
Exactly.
Yeah. And, it was just like, I mean, it was a culture shock for me personally, because based off what I knew in the US to be like, hey, I know some people that look like XYZ, this, that, and the other. Oh, no, I didn't see that, so, yeah.
I mean, I've been places with individuals who were of color, but they were white presenting, right? Lighter shades. And there was a big difference in the way in which we were treated when we went into establishments, and at the time I had locks, so I was black.
Oh, blackity black. Oh yeah, come on now.
Exactly. And so, and I said, there are certain countries that I will not go back to, all right? Certain Latin American countries that I will not go back to because of that. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to go on vacation and be uncomfortable and experience the same racism I can be on Fifth Avenue and experience, trying to get into one of the stores. I'm not going to name the stores, but they know who they are.
Of course. Come on now. I mean, and, man, I don't want to pay airfare just to get treated bad,
No, not at all. Not at all. So it definitely exists, amongst different Caribbean countries, Latin American countries, but it's all learned behavior. It's all learned behavior, during countries being conquered, British rule, white is right, no different than here. No different than here.
Colonizing. But anyway, but look, we not gonna stay there, people. Okay, this is Word with Ty Brownlow. Y'all know how I do it. Man, look, I'm just trying to bring you the points from all angles, just to give you informative content. All right. So, with that being said, we gonna sort of shift it to the other side now. And as I said, Pia Johnson. We got her here, owner and founder of Transformation Counseling Services, and she's a licensed master social worker with her concentration in clinical social work. Let's talk about maintaining our mental health in 2023. How can we, what are some tips? I mean, look, I know we love this social media. Come on, people. Man, I love my social media. I get up in the morning. The first thing I'm doing, I'm grabbing that phone now. I'm scrolling. I'm checking. Like, oh, man, that happened. Oh, okay. I mean, but still, with so much going on out here in the world, even if you don't watch the news, there are still things out here affecting you, that can traumatize you subconsciously.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
How can we maintain a healthy mental health balance in 2023?
There are several things we can do, right? First off, I think the things that cause us a lot of stress and anxiety in 2023 are different than things that cause us stress and anxiety, say in 2020, 2021, even though we were going through COVID, right? One of the biggest stresses I have found for a lot of people are their finances, right now, because of what's going on with the interest rates, with the cost of goods, the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, right? And so that actually has been a huge stressor in 2023, because remember, in COVID, people had a lot of relief, a lot of extra money coming in, from the government, right? We weren't going out as much, so we had a little bit more disposable income. Then boom, 2023 hits and our finances get all messed up and the interest rates are ridiculous and eggs cost $8 a carton, right? And so one of the biggest things that, I work with clients on is helping them to create a realistic financial budget and goal for themselves, right? To kind of help to relieve some of that anxiety, some of that pressure, to see where because it's real. It really keeps people up at night, right? To see where they can make cuts, where they can maybe pick up extra, and how they can kind of live and survive, right? And that is really at the top of the list in 2023, our finances, right?
Yes.
Another thing, I think in order for people to be able to maintain, a healthy space right about now is work-life balance, right? We throw ourselves into work. A lot of people are working remotely, and you would think that working remotely was easy, right?
Come on, man, Pia, you better hit on this. Hit on it, Pia. You better drive this point home.
Longer, right? Working remote. They don't have that commute. So they use that extra hour and a half to start working, right? They sit and work through lunch. They work past 5 o'clock just to finish up, right? And they're working from their home, right? And so there's no separation from them. None whatsoever. So developing a healthy work-life balance is so important. It's important to be able to take that hour for lunch, right? Because if you were at work, you take that hour. At least jobs that are decent to you allow you an hour, right? Some jobs are on that little special stuff and they give you 20 minutes, right?
Hey, come on.
Ooh, for the most part. And those are jobs, that's a whole nother subject, right? Have me back for that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like we get an hour lunch, we get 15-minute breaks. So why don't we work from home? Why don't we do that? Why don't we take those breaks when we work from home? Why don't we at 5 o'clock close that computer? Why are we starting at 8 o'clock, which is usually our commute time, instead of starting at 9 o'clock, right? Taking care of yourself, right? Because guess what? If something happens to you, that job will have somebody sitting in your chair within a week. Boop. They'll send your family flowers and they'll have somebody else sitting in that chair, right? So you have to take care of yourself, right? Yeah. Another thing, practicing mindfulness, whatever works, right? A routine, right? If you have a nighttime routine to wind down, if you have a morning routine, if you like acupuncture, if you like yoga, right? If you just like to take walks, right? Whatever helps you to decompress. If you like to read, if you like to listen to music, right? A lot of people discovered their talents during COVID, right? They discovered, I love baking, right? It really helped. I love knitting. I love sewing. Whatever it is, right? Do it and be consistent with it. Don't let life get in the way and take it away from you, right? Be consistent. Set aside time. On Thursdays at 7 o'clock, I take my dance class, and nothing is going to get in the way of me taking my dance class, right? At 8 o'clock, I light my candle and I take my bath, and nothing is going to get in the way of me doing that. Not allowing anybody or anything to get in the way of your routine, whatever it is that brings you joy, right? We have to be consistent with it. Consistency is the key, right? If it's therapy, being consistent. Some people, that's how they maintain their mental health right about now. They see their therapist weekly, they see their therapist bi-weekly, right? Joining groups, being a part of your community, right? Being a part of something. Everybody, we realize now, right? We need human contact. People thrive being a part of something, right? Why do you think gang violence is so high and on the rise? Because whether it's negative or positive, healthy or unhealthy, people need to feel like they belong, right? So joining some type of community organization, some type of community group, something where you get to gather with people and enjoy yourself, right? That also helps to maintain, a healthy mentality and well-being, right? So those are all some, basic tips. And if you find that you're struggling, that you really are having a hard time maintaining, I definitely recommend therapy. Definitely recommend going into therapy, because it could be something deeper going on, right? It could be depression. It could be something deeper that you need to work out and work on.
Look, let me just say this. Ain't nothing wrong with talking to friends. Yes, talking to friends is great, but sometimes you need a little bit more than just talking to a friend. Exactly. So that's when therapy comes into play.
Exactly.
People, nothing wrong with therapy.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Yeah.
Okay. So if people want to get in contact with you, they want to follow you, they want to check out what you got going on, if they're in the Jersey, New York area, which I know a lot of y'all are. So how can people get in contact with you and, your counseling services?
So we are on Instagram, Transformation Counseling Services. We're on Instagram. Our website, transformservices.com. They can email me directly, Pia, P-I-A, at transformservices.com, TRANSFORM services. You can Google us. You can Google Pia Johnson and you can find me.
Google me. Google me, Chuck.
Google me. I'm important.
All right. Yes. She's very, yes. Okay. Look at, trying to tell y'all, look, trying to give y'all this informative content. Y'all ain't gonna find Pia Johnson on no Dr. Phil now. Okay?
And let me tell you, you can not only find me, you can find other Black therapists. We are out there. We are out there. We are strong and we are open. We are accepting, clients. I come from, another organization that I used to work at, Fresh Path. They are also a culturally competent, counseling services. There are a lot of Black therapists out there. I know people say it's hard, we're hard to find. We're not that hard to find. There's more and more of us popping up.
Look, man, I'm trying to tell y'all, okay? They're out there.
They're out there.
Look for them.
Yes. You might have to look a little harder, right? You might have to do a little more research, but we are out there.
Look for them like you will look for the new Jordans coming out, okay? And
that right there.
There it is. They're in your area, okay? They may be at your local bodega, all right? I mean,
exactly.
They're there, all right? Look for them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've come to the last question, the question that my show is known for, so I'm going to present it to you. Pia Johnson, what is the one word that best describes you and why?
I think the one word that best describes me would be empathetic. And I say that because, growing up, even as a child, people would always say, she's a sensitive little girl. She's a sensitive baby, right? I've always felt what other people feel, right? Didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew that, I would see, people, I would see people struggling. I remember specifically one time I was in DC with my family and I was really young and we were by Howard University, and this was before that area was gentrified. And there were a lot of heroin addicts in the area. And I saw these people and they were standing on their feet looking like they were asleep. And I said to my dad, they don't have any place to go to sleep. That's not, that's not good. That's bad. And my dad, explained to me what was going on. I was young. I didn't really understand, but I felt so bad. And then after he explained it, I really was just like, wow, one day I want to help people like that. And my first job in the field was as a substance abuse counselor. So I've always been, I think, that person that really feels what other people are feeling, and relates to what other people are going through.
I like, I like that. I like that because that takes a certain emotion. You know what I'm saying? That takes I mean, you're like introspective to like how things are. Like, I mean, man, look, this is how I see it. I want to help this person. I think this person, should not be doing this, that, and the other. They should be going, to a home like I'm going to a home, laying down in the bed like I'm laying down in the bed. Why are these people out here? Like, I'm inquisitive, but I want to help. I don't want to harm. I don't want to shame. I want to help. So, okay. Empathetic. I like it. Hey, that's your word. We sticking to it. All right. Well, look, let me just say this, man, I have enjoyed you, man, coming onto this platform. Seriously, like, I have enjoyed this conversation. I'm just going to let you know now, the doors to Word with Ty Brownlow are always open to Pia Johnson. Whatever you got going on, I don't care. Man, you want to come back on the platform, talk about it, let's talk about it. I would love to have you back from other talks, panels maybe, or what have you. And I'm just letting y'all know this is not the last you've seen of Pia Johnson. I'm just letting you know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me. Seriously, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. No problem at all. All right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this has been Word with Ty Brownlow. I've been your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. You can follow me, all social media platforms, Word with Ty Brownlow. Or you can go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Definitely get this wonderful conversation, plus other great conversations as well. Pia Johnson, we out. Peace.